Hello and welcome back. My name is Nakia and I am an actress and a licensed clinical therapist, and this is The Purest Reflection. So I wanted to talk today about mental illness versus mental health wellness and the ways that they are one and the same. But first of all, I can't address that without addressing first the stigma that there is still, for some reason, around mental health and mental health care and treatment. So let me first start by saying, like many of you, I received a lot of just negative information, if you will, about, caring for ourselves mentally since I was a kid. And not knowing until much later that in our communities, specifically Black and Brown communities, mental health is stigmatized for many reasons. Part of it is because it has been seen for many years as a sign of weakness. It was taught that it was only something that you talked about in your family. And a huge part of our lack of mental health treatment or attention to it was because of our strong spiritual connections, religious connections to God, in the sense that the message was God will fix it. Whether it be your depression, your anxiety, your worry, your substance abuse, your you name it. Dysfunction, if you will, dysfunction in your household, in your family, on your job, wherever, you take everything to the Lord in prayer. And trust, I don't disagree with that at all. I believe in God and believe in taking my worries and cares to Him, but not solely in the sense that there are professionals, there are people that are here and available to you for care and for actual professional treatment. Because what was not discussed in our families often growing up, at least not in mine, was that you could and should go to a mental health professional for your health, your mental health, in the same way that you would go to a doctor for your physical health. That was not the message that I received growing up, and I would imagine for many of you that was not the message at all. Matter of fact, drop a comment if you got a similar message as a child, as a teenager, or just growing up, even into adulthood, that mental health was something that was either worked on, solved, within your family, or you take it to God and that was it. That was the message that I got, all throughout life. As a matter of fact, as I've shared with you, I am a licensed clinical therapist. And so many of my clients have also had that same message. But also I've been told by family members on my educational journey, but also on my career. I've had family members not know exactly what I do. I've been called a psychiatrist for years, although that's what I started wanting to do, as I shared with you in the first video. I did not end up becoming that. I chose not to. So they don't really know a lot in terms of what those professionals do that is different and separate. But also I was told that people going to therapy, that's for weak people. I had a family member tell me that you have to be weak to go to therapy. So there is this association with being able to handle your own problems in secret or just amongst your, close family members. That's what strong people did, and you just forge through and you just handle it. But we know, I know, you all know, anytime you watch the news on any given day of the week and you see people, we call snap and make some really, really rash decisions that are life-changing, life-altering, we don't think about the impact of lack of treatment on one's mental health that might have caused some of these decisions. We don't think about how that played a part in those things. We just have been kind of, trained, if you will, to just write those people off. Or, man, he's crazy, she's crazy, man, what type of fool would do this or that, or commit that crime, or do this to their spouse, or do that to their children? Mental illness. Mental illness. And we know that in theory, but then there's also still this other message that people still believe that mental health treatment is for the weak. You don't tell other people your business or your problems. Family business stays within the family. We all still receive those messages. I would be remiss if I did not say, though, and do give credit where credit is due, we have a generation of young people. I have a son who is 25, is my youngest son, and he is, he and friends of his, others in his age bracket are very, very much, mental health advocates and champions. There are a certain age group of people who now are not believing those old things that my generation was taught about therapy. They are a bit more honest about their challenges. And so that's where you may hear lots of things now on social media. We talk about neurodivergence and we talk about anxiety. Anxiety is a huge problem in terms of that generation of young people, but they are seeking the help and the tools to manage it and deal with it. And so I give kudos to them for taking the baton and taking a little bit further in terms of destigmatizing mental illness and what it really means to take care of your mental health. So more young people are latching on to therapists. More people my age actually are, kind of rethinking some things that they have been through and experienced and saying, I've tried everything else. I've tried my family. I've tried therapy. I've tried giving it to God. And although those things were helpful, sometimes not so helpful, but I'm still in the same place mentally. Maybe I need something else. And now they are kind of opening their minds a bit more to seeking professional help. And so I'm glad about that, because when I first started my professional journey, mental illness, folks with chronic and pervasive mental illness was very, very much a taboo topic. So much so, I had many people in my life try to talk me out of making it a, career goal. And so I'm so glad to say that here we are today. More people are looking at it as something that is as necessary as our primary care physician that's treating our high blood pressure, our diabetes, or anything else is going on inside your body. They are just as open as seeking help to find out what's going on inside their minds and how it affects your everyday. Because here's a few things that I want you to know and to remember. Number one is that all of us suffer from, are powering through, are survivors of, on a daily basis, some type of mental health challenge. So, for example, if you have lost a job, if your parent has died, if your child is chronically sick or ill, if you, let's say, lost a friend, a friendship, got a divorce, were homeless, lost your home, anything like that that causes you just an ounce of depression, an ounce of anxiety, an ounce of worry that sometimes seems beyond your control at that time, we call going through it. In any season of your life, you have suffered from perhaps some signs and symptoms of what could be a diagnosable mental illness. And there is no shame in that, because there's levels to this thing. I, as a licensed professional, have had periods of anxiety in my life, have had periods of depression in my life. Just depends on what was happening, right? That happens to us all. That is what connects us all. That is what we all share in common, but we don't want to call it that. We just want to call it a season or a time or something happened. But I promise you that whatever behavior that came after that, whatever you chose to do to deal with that problem, that could be a sign of something diagnosable. And again, Nothing wrong with that. No shame in it. It's not finger pointing, finger wagging at all. No shame in that. But that is the reality. And let me also include substance abuse, because in our communities, and I'm not going to say just black and brown communities, I believe all communities, we do not think of dealing with certain things that happen to us in life with a substance as problematic all the time. Even if problematic things happen to us as a result, we still don't see that as problematic. Why? Because it is more socially acceptable. Drinking is more socially acceptable. Rolling up a blunt is more socially acceptable. And so we don't think of it necessarily as problematic. We think of it as coping, perhaps, but we don't think of it as something diagnosable. So number 2, let me tell you, substance abuse is a diagnosable mental illness. So that's that. Anxiety. I don't know a person alive who has not experienced some level of anxiety. So add that to the list. There's levels to this, and most of us have fallen on that level, on that spectrum at some point in time. So why is mental illness therefore still stigmatized? I don't know. It is actually one of many things. The only other thing I can think of is music that can bring people together, and we all can experience and feel some of the same things the way that mental health can. So why it's stigmatized, I'm not sure. But the other thing I want you to consider, we'll call this number 2, because I started with number 1 and then named about 10 more points, but whatever, we'll call it number 2. Number 2 is that when we talk about family, and what happens in this house or what happens in this family stays in this house or in this family. That was a message I heard all my life, that you don't talk about your business with other people outside of this home or outside of this family. And yes, I do believe in the loyalty, if you will, to family members, that if a family member confides something personal in me or to me, that is not my business to share. I am very, very serious about not sharing my family's business or my friend's business. That's just a personal preference of mine. But in terms of needing really some help with dysfunctional things that happen in families, sometimes there needs to be help that comes from outside of that family, because number 2, what I do know is that you cannot heal in the same place that you were hurt. So although we may feel comfortable talking to mom or to dad or to granny or grandpa, auntie, whomever, that often has good advice, that often, will give us something to put on our minds in terms of how to deal with the situation, that are more times than not well-intentioned. But a lot of times what happens in families is our family members can only feed us from the place that their cup is full. Full of what? We're not sure. But what I can tell you, a lot of times they're coming from a place of their own fears, their own worries, their own lack of perhaps ability to achieve certain things in their life. And so that's why you may get family members that'll tell you, don't do that, because I can tell you all about that. I tried that. It didn't work. It didn't work for me, therefore it won't work for you. They can only give you advice from their own experiences and their own vantage point. However, they are not trained professionals, and they are not objective. So if you go to see a therapist who doesn't know you, who is getting to know you on this journey, they have no dog in the fight. Their job is really and truly is only to talk you through, walk you through how to get to your own solutions. They're not telling you what to do. They're not giving you advice. Not a therapist worth their salt. Our job is not to tell you what to do. Our job is to help you discover your own tools within you in order to be able to solve your own problems. Because what we know is that the answer is already there. You already know it's a problem, and chances are you already know what to do. You come to us for confirmation. I have no reason to try to sway you one way or the other. Not at all. Whereas our family members might. There may be family members who don't want you to go further than your neighborhood or than your household in terms of your dreams and your ideas. And therefore you come to them for advice and they try to talk you out of those things because they do have a dog in the fight. Lots of family members feel because they've known you since you were this big that they know you better than you know yourself. And so therefore, this is what you are thinking and feeling about what's bothering you, about what's going on in your heart and in your mind. And then you got this person talking about, girl, boy, I've been knowing you since you was this big and that ain't your issue and blah, 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 blah. You ought to do this or that or the other because I think that's what you need to be doing. Again, not ill-intentioned, but their vantage point, their eyesight in terms of how far they can see is limited sometimes for their own life, but it's definitely even more limited when it comes to yours. And so you can't always get the help that you really and truly need from your family. Again, not ill-intentioned, just ill-equipped. Okay? And so I'm going to take that perhaps a little bit further. If your family members are the ones that cause the mental illness or the harm in the first place, who always thought that mental health treatment was for the weak, that always had those very stigmatizing beliefs about just treatment in general, and also are the ones who perhaps have been hurt or harmed themselves by someone who is now your caregiver, your leader, your teacher, what are they going to teach you other than perhaps some of the same patterns, some of the same dysfunction that they learned from? And so they in turn caused perhaps some of the harm that now has you feeling like, I need some help. I need some help. And so that is why, we cannot heal in the same place where we've been harmed. And I use the word harmed meaning literal harm, but also meaning just when there is no harm intended, but harm happens anyway. Where there are family members who mean you no harm, they certainly don't mean you no harm if they're trying to lead you to God. Take your problems to the Lord and He'll fix it. There's no harm there. Their intentions are pure. However, if that is my only recourse in terms of fixing what I know inside me better than anybody is critical right now. And I know I'm the only one who knows how critical it is because I ain't shared it with nobody, but it is hurting me. It is harming me. That is what oftentimes will lead us to not get the help that we need, is from those messages. And so again, not meaning to be harmful, but also can be very, very harmful intentionally many times, depending on the family dynamic. It stops us from really getting the help that we truly need. And so sometimes it takes a person's own voice, that own inner voice, to really be able to decide this is something that I need. And I don't want to knock spirituality for anybody. Again, I believe in God, been taught to believe in God and still continue to do so as an adult who can make their own choices, have a relationship with God. That is what we call a coping skill or a tool. It's something that you use as a part of your own personal life for healing and well-being. But there are other things. God gives me other things to pull from to help me from day to day. And so the same that is available to me is available to anyone, but it is a choice. It is a choice. And so that's why oftentimes people don't get the help that they need. The third thing is also the education, if you will. I just happen to know a lot about mental illness because I have 2 degrees in it. That is not the story for everyone. And so many times families, and including ourselves, we know that something needs to be done, but don't necessarily know what to do or how to do or where to go to get the help that is needed, simply because of lack of education. So if we are hell-bent on this is for the family or for God and that is it, what happens here stays here, we don't oftentimes seek the information that is out there that can help us make the choices that are necessary. And so if we're not researching, reading a book, learning about mental illness, and we already don't really fool with it as an idea anyway, and those who have chronic or pervasive mental illness should be shunned and not really, no, I don't really want them to come around. And I'm afraid of them. That's a whole nother topic. Then I don't necessarily have the thought of let me learn more about this, when in fact there are things that we could learn that could be helpful in getting the help that we need for our own issues. I think of substance abuse particularly. How many people don't realize that substance abuse is a mental illness? Many do. A whole lot don't understand addiction and what happens in that process. And we're not learning about it. We're not seeking the information about it. We just kind of take it as a it is what it is kind of thing. And so that's what leads to stigma. That's what leads to people being hesitant to get the help that they need, and why therapists, people in my job, have been so stigmatized. That is the reason why for so many years, many people believe that if you have the title of a social worker, which is what my master's degree is in, that your job and only job is to run up in people's houses and take their kids. And we do so much more than that. With a social work degree, I am a licensed therapist. And so people believe that with therapy, if you have the title of a therapist, you're walking around analyzing folks all the time. And because I don't want you in my business, because of all these other beliefs, I stay away from you and anybody like you. It's part of the stigma. So the early messages that we perhaps were fed as children, and just as a generation and as a culture, you add that to not understanding how the people that we may go to for help, be it our family, also our friends, are not equipped to help us. Many cannot help us. Again, not for lack of good intentions, but just for lack of equipment. And then third, you add to that just that we don't prioritize it in the same way that we do our physical health. And we somehow feel that we can heal in the same place that we are harmed. So lots of conversation to be had around that, but I'm also very grateful again and so happy to see that there are increasing numbers that are happening in real time of people who are seeking therapy as a tool without shame. Right, without shame. And so that makes me very happy. It gives me hope that generations to come will be in a better headspace and will be better equipped to not only help themselves, but perhaps help others, because it's still a profession, still a thriving profession. It's still a profession that now post-COVID, especially, we are making good money doing what we do. So I'm thinking of up and coming, social workers and clinicians that will now be better equipped to help make mental health wellness less stigmatized. So just some food for thought, just a little food for thought. But we're going to talk about a lot of different things. I want to get into substance abuse. I want to get into family dysfunction. I want to get into co-parenting. I want to get into breaking generational curses. I want to get into cultural myths, what we think and believe that we know about other people that we really don't, particularly Black people. and people of color. I want to talk about all kinds of things, our educational system, our legal system, and how there are mental health elements all up and through those systems that get ignored, that get pushed to the side when they really should be pushed to the front, because for most of us, it is in fact what guides most of our decision making from day to day. And so I want to talk about all the things. So leave a comment, hit that like button, subscribe to my channel if you are interested in these types of conversations. I am excited about going on this journey with you. So I leave you with this. It's my little quote: do a little bit today, just a little bit today, and watch things get better with time. So I leave you with that. And in the meantime, y'all be cool.